Hi guys, it's great to see you. I hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to be speaking about Memento Mori, or meditating upon death. If this isn't the most perennial truth in all philosophy, all of life, then there's no denying it. Every living thing is born, comes to be, lives its life, and then passes away. And so this term, Memento Mori, comes from Latin, and it was very popular in the Roman era, and also Stoic philosophy has this term a lot. Seneca and Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, they all use this term and focus on death. And there's also roots in the Buddhist philosophy as well, which I'll get to in its right time. But first I just want to tell you a little story. Do you remember the film Gladiator and the main character?
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, loyal servant to the true emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next.
So Maximus was a great general, and if you've seen the film, earlier in the film, he has several victories over the barbarians and various other armies. And what would have happened in the Roman Empire when a great general would have won a victory? He would have been returning back to his home, or back to the empire, and everyone would be cheering, greeting, throwing flowers on him, worshipping him really. And what would have happened is he would have had an aide close by to whisper in his ear every now and again, and the aide would whisper, "Memento Mori, remember you're mortal." And then again, "Memento Mori, remember that you will die." And this was just to keep the great general grounded and focus on the next battle, and not to get too caught up in his own ego and his victory, because there'll probably be another war, and if he took his eye off the ball, then you're gonna die if you're a great warrior. And so I think by the time we meet Maximus in the Gladiator, he would have already been through this preparation and already done his philosophy and had his aide chanting Memento Mori in his ear, because I think he was already a great general at the time we meet him in Gladiator. And so next I'm going to talk about Steve Jobs, who, if you ever read the Walter Isaacson biography of him, he was very in touch with death from an early age. There's several points in the book where Steve Jobs is speaking to a friend or a colleague, a loved one, and he says, "I have a feeling, a premonition that I will die early, and that's why I work with such ferocious energy, and that's why I've got no time to rest, because my life will be short, and I've got a feeling I'm going to die young." And this probably premonition had an impact on how he approached his cancer later in his life, because he had come to terms with his death. He was very influenced by Zen philosophy and Yogananda. So the concept of death wouldn't have been something that he'd only just thought of as it was approaching. I think he would have been thinking about it a lot in his life, especially to have these thoughts about death's going to come for me early. So what's the point of this practice? Why do this meditation on death? And it's not morbid, and it's not like depressive and pessimistic. "Oh, I'm going to die." Oh, it's to almost invigorate your life, to focus on a few things that come in life, and they can be enhanced if you focus on the end of life, death, and that you're not going to live forever. So these things are as follows. Gratitude. There is still time for us. We still have this precious human life. Priority and perspective. What's really important? If we knew this was our last day on earth, how would we spend it? Enthusiasm. Don't take your time for granted. And action. Do what you have been putting off. Time is finite, and it is running down. And to stay focused on time, it's clear, isn't it? We only have a finite number of days and years on this planet, and we don't know when our time's going to be up. So these things, this meditation on death, Memento Mori, to focus on it is to enrich our life, because we still have it. We're the lucky ones that have been waking up. And there's a great quote from Seneca, and he says, you may not wake up tomorrow, and you may not be able to sleep this evening. And we see it when a famous person passes, or a friend or family member passes away. And when it comes as a surprise to us, we think, how could it happen? But, these things bring the reality home to us. And this is moving on to the Buddhist philosophy, Memento Mori as well. But why contemplate these things? Why do this practice? And it's to come to terms with our death. My spiritual teacher would say to me, it's much easier to face death if you've come to terms with death. And I think that's what all these practices and philosophies are made for, to help you to, have more passion and zest for life, but also to be able to face death when it approaches. And Socrates in Plato's Phaedo talks about that is all that the philosopher is doing in his life, is learning how to die. And when all his people around him were upset and crying because he's drinking the hemlock and going to die, he's saying to them, what's wrong with you? This is what I've been preparing for my whole life, and now it's coming. Why should I be upset? Why should I be disheartened? And there's many other great teachings in the Phaedo about death. And this coming to terms with this brings us to the Buddhist perspective on this matter, and it's called Maraṇasati, and it's death awareness, or meditation upon death. And Atisha, a famous Buddhist scholar, popularized this, and he would have his students meditating on these things regularly, to enhance their practice. Because if you're always focusing on that death could always be approaching, it's going to make you practice more fervently. So I've got a few of his things he'd make his students contemplate. I'll just read a few of them, the ones I think are the most important. Death is inevitable. Of course, we can all resonate with that. There are many causes of death, and the human body is vulnerable and fragile. Joe Rogan's always talking on his podcast that we're like a balloon of blood and bones. And, if you get hit by a car moving very fast or fall from too high a place, then that's it. It's game over. So, these are things that we should be contemplating. And our loved ones, and no one can keep us from death. I hope you've got some benefit from this episode, and you're going to bring Memento Mori and meditating on death into your life to enhance it. And remember, our time is precious and it's short, so love fully. Always be grateful when you wake up or you're able to go to sleep. Get enthusiastic about this precious life that we all still have. Take care now.